So I had an interesting question which I wanted to discuss with you. Before I even ask the question, I just want to make it clear because people are going to be watching this. I give zero credence to any interpretation of the Torah shebichtav, any interpretation which seeks to regulate, which seeks to explain Halacha. That's what I'm talking about. I give zero credence to any of the interpretation of the Torah shebichtav, which is not based upon the Masorah of the Chachamim in the Talmud. That's number one.
Rambam says this interpretation of the Torah. The interpretation of the Torah shebichtav is up to the Chachamim Talmud, whose bedin, the last bedin, is the bedin of Rabbi Rashi.
Right.
After Rabbi Rashi, there is no bedin that has the right to interpret the Torah shebichtav in light of Torah shebichtav.
Right. Now, having said that, nevertheless, I'm going to ask a question because some people ask, some of the Talmudim asked me the question. So I want to...
In that sense, we happen to have the same system in America. No one is permitted to interpret the U.S. Constitution from a legal point of view except the Supreme Court of America.
Right.
All right?
Right.
The same way is in with the Torah shebichtav. Our Torah shebichtav could be interpreted, the pirush of the Torah shebichtav is in the soul and hands of the Bedin HaGadol. The last Bedin HaGadol was the Bedin of Rabbi Rashi.
Right, right. And you can be a great expert in Western literature, the most brilliant man alive when it comes to Western literature,
yes.
Or woman.
Yes.
And whatever you have to say about the Constitution, that this word means that freedom means this, it's very nice, but it's all irrelevant from the point of view of law, because it's a Supreme Court that determines the law.
The only body with the right, the authority to give the legal interpretation of the U.S. Constitution is the Supreme Court of America.
Right.
The parallel situation is with Israel.
Right. All right. Right. So somebody asked me the following question: a woman who is nida. The Torah doesn't explicitly, the Torah shebichtav,
yes,
doesn't explicitly state that a nida becomes tahor through the process of tevilah b'mikveh, right? So they want to reach the following, to me, ridiculous, and I say ridiculous not to be disrespectful, but anybody who studies Halacha and anybody who studies Torah shebichtav and understands the way the dual Torah system works will necessarily consider this ridiculous. Wants to say that really a nida de'oraita becomes pure automatically, or you don't need a mikveh, which, you know, again, and I'll pose the following question, and then I want to hear your thing. Is there any other tum'ah that becomes pure automatically, where you don't need something to remove the tum'ah from the person? Does that exist? Is it tumat keri? Is it tumat sheres? Is tumat sara'ah? Any of the tum'ah? Tumat behema nevela? Any tum'ah where it just goes away? Of course not. So, but I just wanted to say why I consider it ridiculous. The whole question is so ignorant. But I want to hear your.
Yeah, but basically is that the Torah shebichtav, yes, it does not say that befirush that le'abir the tum'ah of nida you need a tevilah b'mikveh. However, here comes the point. The Torah shebichtav is binding as interpreted by the Torah shebe'al peh. And the Torah shebe'al peh says explicitly that tum'ah nida, Rambam says, even if the Isha is Zekina, she was nida only 50 years ago, 60 years ago, is still the tum'ah of the Isha, even if she's Zekina. Now she has no more nida, she cannot be nida. Nonetheless, she is haba'alea, hayav until she goes to the mikveh. Right. Why? Because the Torah shebe'al peh, which is equivalent to the Supreme Court of Israel, had determined that it needs tevilah. Right. And just like we have a first person and second person, the second person of the Torah is Am Yisrael, the Torah shebe'al peh, as Morashat Milat Yaakov, as Leimental. This is what we understood. When Borei Olam says that the Nida is Teme'ah, we understood that this Tum'ah could be overcome, or it is, could be purified only through mikveh.
Right.
Somebody else thinks differently, kol hakavod lo. But that's not the Torah Israel.
Right.
Yeah.
You have a Torah system.
We have the Torah system.
And by the way, the Torah Shevichtav doesn't say that a nidah is purified through mikveh. But the Torah Shevichtav does say, Al pi Torah asher yoruha, explicitly.
It also says Morasha, which means Torah Shebe'al Peh, like Yaakov.
Torah Silva, the word
Silva
Silva,
means Torah Shebe'al Peh.
Torah Shebe'al Peh. And also it says, Lo tasu min hadavar asher yagidu lecha
Yagidu Be'al Peh.
So therefore we have an obligation to accept the interpretations of the Supreme Court. And I want to say another thing. Here we have a binyan av. So there's a binyan av that the tahora of the nidah is in the mikveh through a binyan av.
Yeah.
So here we have one of the yad midot, and I want to discuss now the point of the yad midot. If we have a yad midah, one of the yad midot, explaining to us how to perform a mitzvah deoraita, or explaining to us an aspect of the mitzvah deoraita, does that halacha now attain the status of a mitzvah derabanan? Of course, I'm asking rhetorically because I know the answer. Or do we say no, since the Chachamim are authorized to interpret the mitzvah deoraita, that interpretation itself has a...
Yeah, I make a distinction.
Right.
All right. Sometimes the Gimon Midot, as Rambam says,
Right.
in the introduction to the Pirusha Mishnayot,
Right.
sometimes the Gimon Midot are an artificial mean to remember, to connect what we receive Be'al Peh, Min Moshe, Sinai, to connect it with the text.
Right.
Yes, it's easier because today we have Mishnayot, we have Gemara, we have Baratot, Tosefta. Prior to the Churban Beit HaMikdash, everything was Be'al Peh.
Right.
We had no Mishnayot. I mean, Mishnayot were not taught Mishnayot. So, Gimel Midot serve to this Rabbi Levi says in the Kuzar, in the first article of the Kuzar, serve as a means, as a mnemonic means for the memory, to remember, to connect Torah Shebe'al Peh with Torah Shevichtav. Everybody knew Torah Shevichtav. Everybody knew Torah Shevichtav. So therefore, it was easy to connect the Torah Shebe'al Peh through one of the Yodim HaMidot to the Torah Shevichtav. Now, sometimes the Yodim HaMidot propose a new interpretation. Like, for instance, according to Rambam, Kesef.
Ki, ka, ish, isha.
Yeah.
Right.
Ikach, this is Kesef.
Right.
Yes? And this is according to Rambam,
Right.
this is the Resofrim, but once the Chachamim interpreted this way, the women who's Mekudeshes, they oraita.
Right.
Aba'alea, Hayab Chatat, Hayab Mitah, depends on the answer.
There is no difference whether the woman was Mekudeshet, Ishta, Levi'ah,
Exactly.
or Kesef.
Exactly.
They all have the status of marriage. They all have
Actually,
Kiddushin. I'm sorry,
And
Kiddushin,
not only this,
Oraita.
the Kohen,
Right.
not only this, the Kohen married the Isha through Kesef.
Right.
She passed away.
Right.
Now, the two things is Kesef, and she's an Arusa only.
Right.
He has the right lechatehela. No, he's obligated letameh et asmo. Yes, to go and be kover.
Right.
Isha.
Right.
So there is a whole conglomeration of different suffering.
Right. So I just want the people to understand the significance of what was just said, because there's an Isur Deoraita for a Kohen to be metameh.
That's Meforash Torah.
Absolute Isur Deoraita. Nobody will argue.
And this that the she'ero is Jewish law.
Right.
And Jewish law, not as Jewish law, but also she'ero to kesef
Right.
is law.
So So if you say the Yad Midot is the Rabbanan, meaning the status of the law derived through the Yad Midot is the Rabbanan, then how can you say that the Kohen is getting mitameh lamehi?
Beyadayim.
Right.
Yeah, yes.
The Isur is lo ta'aseh
Yeah.
deoraita.
Yeah.
And he's only married supposedly the Rabbanan.
And not only he's married the Rabbanan,
Supposedly.
yeah, but also, how do you know that she'ero zu ishto?
Right.
She'ero, has to do with Pesach. What is the source of the word she'er?
Se'or.
Se'or, which means it's almost a physical, biological matter. So how do you know that she'ero? There's no biological relationship between a husband and a wife. On the contrary, if there is a biological relation, then it's asur, because a karov.
Right.
Come the Hakamim say, she'erozu ishto.
Right.
So you have a derasha upon a derasha upon a derasha.
Right.
How do you know that you have to bury her? Also another derasha.
Right.
All right? All right? So all of them are derashot. And nonetheless, mitameh aliyah.
Right.
I have a very nice in my Bayan whole thing about that and how this became law and so on. There was some kohen in the Beit HaMikdash, Timeu, Hava Kohanim, and I say in this case, what do you mean Timeu, Hava Kohanim? That there was a mahloket between them, Abdul Minyan, and the law was determined that he has to be Metameh for his
Right. So I want to make the following point in summarizing. These so-called analyses, where they look at Pasukim in the Torah, the Pasuk doesn't say that the Nida has to make Tevilah. Wow! That just shows an incredible ignorance on the part of people publishing analyses and having not the smallest idea of how the Torah system works. It's a dual Torah system. You cannot divorce the Torah Shebe'al Peh from the Torah Shebichtav. Rather, the Torah Shebe'al Peh was given before the Torah Shebichtav. Because of course the Torah Shebichtav was given at the end of the 40 years and the Torah Shebe'al Peh was given at the beginning, or over the course of the 40 years. Moshe Rabbeinu was teaching it. So it just shows a tremendous ignorance.
But there's something else.
Right.
Again, in my Bayan Yosef, I have a whole criticism to the whole system that begin to study Torah, how you say Torah, at Tosafot, or Gemara. Torah doesn't first, the Gemara Chachamim is saying this in more than one place. You have to be first Torah Shebichtav.
Right.
כשהילד יודע לעבר אביו מלמדו, תורה שבאנו למשה, שמע ישראל, whatever it is. You know the Torah שבכתב. Then after Torah שבכתב, Mishnah. After the Mishnah, Talmud. And on this, אחד מאלף is not going to be posek. Here we have, which means, to be posek, your mind has to be programmed. First Torah שבכתב, then Torah שבעל פה.
Torah Shebichtav, by meaning ta'amin. You need somebody to teach you how to read properly.
Exactly. That doesn't mean that you read in perspective. Torah שבכתב, Rambam says with the ta'amin. That we know, like a Henu Temanim, like how we used to learn that law. First Torah שבכתב. According to Rambam Mahok, according to Rambam is that the whole Torah שבכתב. With ta'amin. All right. First of all, then you have to know Mishnayot.
Right.
Then you study Talmud.
Right.
But you study Talmud, you know the whole Talmud, the same you know what posek.
Right.
Asara נכנסים לתלמוד, אחד from this Asara, from the Elef, you say Hora'ah. So what we have here, people that cannot read properly Hebrew, they make Hora'ah.
Right.
So through their analphabetic analysis of the Torah,
Based on Pesukim that they cannot read properly.
And they have the whole mind was already computerized and formatted according to pagan thinking,
Right.
and then they come to tell you what the law is.
Right.
This is our fault because אנחנו בגדנו, we betrayed our תינוקות, our children, and instead of teaching them Torah שבכתב, they're teaching, I don't know whatever nonsense is. You know how to say, I don't know, some nonsense. Ruchnius. I don't know what it is. Yeah. So again, the mind, we are living in a Gentile environment. By Gentile environment, I mean where the main values governing society are pagan values.
Right.
All right? The pagan society. Now, after the mind is formatted according to pagan values, then start a little bit of Torah, yes, and they know barely how to read in Hebrew. The mind was never programmed according to Torah Shebichtav, was never programmed according to Torah Shebe'al Peh. Their reading is basically a pagan reading of the Hebrew scripture or the Hebrew Mishnayot or whatever it is, and they're going to make it Pisakacha.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder whether it could be somebody born, educated in China and so on, who cannot read proper English, to tell you what the interpretation of the Supreme Court is, and why the Supreme Court interpretation of the Constitution is incorrect.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So this